The following podcast is a spoiler-filled discussion on George R. R. Martin's series A Song of Ice and Fire. If you do not wish to be spoiled on anything in the show or the books, please tune out now. You are listening to Cancel the Apocalypse.
CT, how would you like to cast your vote in the Galactic setting?
Not sure. ET phone home first.
There's an alien running around in the woods.
Man, if a species has mastered intergalactic travel, I seriously doubt they would be just messing around in our forest.
Yeah, so I'm actually kind of worried about this casting. I have no idea who he's playing, but he could tank the whole show.
We are a peaceful planet. You may fire when ready. Kaboom!
Hello everyone, you're listening to a special recording of Cancel the Apocalypse. We're in here, we're doing like a little recorded Skype session. We're going to be talking about mostly Game of Thrones and kind of like what we're going to expect out of the next season of Game of Thrones in terms of like what's coming up in the books and all that. So yeah, should be pretty cool. We can curse and we can say go do stuff. We can tell you to do stuff. So yeah, fuck it. Okay, so where did we want to start? I guess we can start with kind of where we ended our last Cancel the Apocalypse show with like Lady Stoneheart. So Nikki, you said you think it's going to be like the first scene.
That's what I would love. I don't know if it will happen, but I think that would be really solid, especially with the way they've done, in season 1 where they did their cold opening with the White Walkers, and then you sort of like, okay, what the hell was that? And they don't ever talk about it for like the next 4 episodes. So I think
next 4 people were wondering where the White Walkers were for like
yeah. I mean,
no one knows what a Bothan is.
Yeah.
That's true.
Everyone just knows that they died.
I still don't know. After reading all these books, I don't know if they're horses or like cats or
I'm pretty sure they're like
man cats or
they're like rodent cats. I don't know. I know they're not really rodents, but I don't know. I always thought of them as
too long to be a cat.
Yeah. They're rodent cats. That's a good way to leave it. But
see, that's the funny thing about Expanded Universe, because there are different like artist conceptions of what these things look like. Like there's a character called Runt. I know this is not Game of Thrones, but anyway, there's a character called Runt who in one picture looks like a horse, and in other pictures is like a bear man.
Bear man horse.
Yeah.
What is he in?
Yeah.
I've never heard of Runt.
He's a race squadron member.
Oh, okay.
Hey, you know what I find hilarious? Bothans.
Many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Ooh.
Well, I remember in Star Wars Galaxy, you could play as a Bothan. Couldn't you? Yeah, or in some...
I never played Galaxy.
In some video game, you could play as a Bothan. They were almost kind of
dogs.
dogs.
In Battlefront, the first one? Or
Battlefront
the second one?
2.
Or both?
Yeah, that's
2?
true, yeah.
They had like a flamethrower or something, right?
No, they became invisible and they snuck
they did
behind,
invisible.
and they could shock
But didn't they have
people.
like a shock thing? Okay, no, the flamethrower. That makes more sense than the flamethrower. But anyway, back to the actual topic. We've all talked more about Star Wars than Game of Thrones already. But anyway, so yeah, like the big thing, I think Alex Graves should just not do interviews because all of his interviews are bad. But like after the last episode and after the kind of book fan backlash, where was Lady Stoneheart? He had kind of a short interview, and this is what he said in response to that. He says, "It's a great question because it's all that I asked about last year when I was doing the episode with the Brotherhood Without Banners and Beric Dondarrion, who ultimately is the person who finds Catelyn and turns her into Lady Stoneheart. But no, they didn't do it. It was never on the docket to do this season ever." So
yeah, he said something about how it'd be a waste or something to have Michelle Fairley come back and as a zombie.
Yeah, they said here but bring back Michelle Fairley, one of the greatest actresses around, to be a zombie for a little while and just kill people. It is really sort of, what are we doing with that? How does that play into the whole story in a way that we're going to like? So those kind of statements make me think they're not going to put Lady Stoneheart in at all. But at the same time, that would probably be the biggest cut they've done so far. Because
I think he just spoke weird, and in the context of the fourth season, Lady Stoneheart maybe didn't make sense because they already had so many storylines that they're just like, okay, let's narrow it in on these aspects. So I think a lot of people are like, oh, they already missed the window for Lady Stoneheart. Now she's going to be irrelevant. And yeah, like maybe I felt like that at the beginning, but I think when you look at all the different season 4 storylines, it might have been for the best to not introduce her like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, can I butt in with something?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, I mean, a character whose window you could say is pretty much closed at this point is Cold Hands. There have been a few moments where they could have snuck him in late, but we can just assume he's out.
I don't know. I don't have any formal written statement anywhere, so I guess it's not confirmed. But I read somewhere that it was definitely confirmed that he was cut. I mean, it's kind of obvious, like you said, by now his window's kind of passed.
But regarding Lady Stoneheart, I could see if they don't do the cold opening like Nikki has suggested, I could see her showing up with regularly in Brienne's storyline when she runs into her.
Yeah.
I've seen people saying they think Brienne and Pod are going to be basically finding dead Freys across the season, and then maybe not at the end, maybe in the middle, come across Lady Stoneheart, but have it kind of build up whoa, someone's going around killing Freys.
It's a good way to end an episode.
Yeah, definitely. If it's not an end of an episode, if it's not the cold open and it's not the end of an episode, it would be kind of weird.
Yeah, it's too shocking.
And the other thing that a negative thing about not having it in season 4 is just the people getting spoiled by it. I mean, it's hard to keep from being spoiled. I imagine, I'm not obviously just a show watcher, but I imagine it's pretty hard to keep from seeing spoilers as popular as this show has gotten, and especially now that so many people expected it, and now it's not till next season. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be spoiled for it. That's not to say that there won't be people who don't look at spoilers, but at the same time, I don't know. I feel like it's going to lose kind of a little bit of shock factor just because people are going to get spoiled to it over the course of the next, 9 months. So, I don't know.
I feel like part of the uproar about it has already spoiled it.
Yeah. They were on, Jimmy Kimmel, and he was outright saying, oh, man, Lady Stoneheart and stuff.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's read the fucking books already. But then it's also okay, let's try and give the show its dignity, too.
Yeah, it's always good to read the books, even if you're spoiled, just because it's kind of almost a completely different story, as kind of in-depth as it goes. But at the same time, I feel bad if someone gets spoiled for something when there's so many things in the books that I wasn't spoiled from and I got surprised.
I mean, it's just the books are, the better story. And then, as good as the show is, it's just, you get more out of the books. And
I mean, there are the few things, we kind of talked in the last episode, how pretty much all of Arya's added stuff in the show is awesome. But it's kind of you have a few added scenes in the show that are oh, that's really cool. And there's a whole bunch of added stuff in the books that would be...
I kind of have a hypothesis, maybe is too strong of a word, but one could make the statement that the show makes certain characters more interesting, as in the case of Arya, what they've done up until we sort of get to her main storyline that's coming up, or in the case of Robb Stark, seeing more of him, Roose Bolton, Tywin Lannister. But while they make characters more interesting, it isn't necessarily expanding on the story itself in the overall plot. Right. You have character development that you don't see in the books that you see in the show, but the better story by and far is the intricacies that you see in the novels.
Yeah, they have these character moments and kind of, I guess, more characterization for some people. When you're talking about Grey Worm and Missandei, I mean, they're kind of couple scenes that they had in the last season were just pretty much essentially just characterization. I don't see anything really coming out of that, but while they have that in the book or in the show, the book has 20 times as many characters, so it's kind of an offset almost. You have a few more characters that aren't really fleshed out as much as they try to do in the show, but you have so many more characters that aren't even existent in the show. So, like, what? There's got to be how many named characters in A Song of Ice and Fire do you think there are?
One sec. I have the back of the book right here. I'm just gonna flip through real quick just to make an estimate.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's over 1,000.
Yeah,
I think it's been numbered, and it's over 1,000.
Oh wow, that is so crazy. And
Yeah.
still 2 more books to go.
Also, for like a second, can I just quickly draw attention to how today Queen Elizabeth visited the Game of Thrones set?
Yeah.
Or was
Yeah,
it today?
that's pretty cool.
It was
Maybe
yesterday.
Yeah, I'm
today.
sure it's
Today,
Oh, it was
today
yesterday?
we're seeing the reaction to it.
That's pretty funny. And I hope she
Yeah,
has a
just
kid.
how popular it is. I haven't read anything on it, I guess.
The main
season
thing is
10?
that she didn't sit on the Iron Throne, which had a lot of people pissed off. But she was eyeballing it the whole time.
I hope Prince Philip did, and then said something racist.
Or
That's kinda-
anti-Russian.
That's kind of what he does.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I bet you fucked some sheep, you Dornishman.
They keep that in the
Oh,
season.
man.
They're filming it at the time, and they have like that line in the the next season somewhere. But anyways, kind of going back to fleshing out characters, I guess I'll step into next season stuff. So book 4 is pretty notorious for adding in a whole bunch of like new characters, and especially like new POV characters. Do you think any of the POV characters, because I think up until this point, excluding prologue and epilogue characters, they haven't cut a POV character, right? I think they've had every POV character in the show.
Yeah, I'd say you're right on that.
So, do you think there's a chance that any POV characters for book 4 get cut? Like,
I would
someone
be
like
a little.
Aaron Greyjoy or Eris Hokart.
I'd be a little surprised if they have Oakheart in the same way he was portrayed, and
Right.
I'd be a little surprised if they had Aaron Greyjoy, unless there's something big for him planned that we don't know about. I'd be a little
That's true.
surprised if they had.
Because in the
Aaron.
books, we kind of don't know what's going on with him. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's like
even if
the other Greyjoy brothers, I think they're vital.
Or,
and-
yeah, you gotta
and I'll
have
be-
Victorian and Euron, but
Yeah, and I'll be really confused if they somehow get cut. But I think Aaron is probably the one who's the most.
I mean, yeah,
like-
even reading A Feast for Crows the second time, like I loved it so much more than the first time. But
Yeah.
even then, I found Aaron's chapter is boring. Like it's just
I like him just because I like Greyjoys, and I think sort of the way he's characterized with the whole like drowned god faith, and just sort
Yeah.
of, and he's sort of like his character gets into a way that you don't always get, where it's like this is how a Greyjoy thinks, almost kind of thing. Maybe
Right.
Victarian's good with that too, but definitely not on the religious side.
right. And then I guess another one, Area Hota. Maybe they'll have him, but
I heard he's one of the casting calls.
oh really? Okay.
Yeah, I read that somewhere on like a fan site. You know winterscoming.net.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, so I read that because that is on one page where it was talking about like Doran, Aereo, Tristane, and then 3 of the Sand Snakes.
Right. So okay.
Interestingly, not Arion Martell. She wasn't in there.
I know. Like I haven't heard anything about her, but she's pretty important. So
I feel like she'd be very difficult to cut, unless
yeah,
you
you
just,
gotta have. You
Yeah.
gotta have one of. Well, I guess they're making Tristane older.
But see, I don't think they can do. See, I was thinking about this, and I was like, are they gonna make Tristane do the Quentin quest?
Oh God.
Or are they going to cut the Quentin quest? Or are they going to turn Tristane into Ariane? And, like, he can't do both, obviously.
I don't
So
think.
it's like,
I'll continue.
yeah, I was just going to say, like, I think if he is going to take someone's path, he'll take Ariane's, and they'll either keep Quentin or cut Quentin, because he was kind of useless.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of getting into beyond the 5th book stuff, but like, yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of Quentin either, but I see his death impacting, kind of the Martell storyline going forward. So
Yeah, that's true.
I don't. Once again, I don't really know what's going on with him, so maybe he will get cut. But as of right now, I don't see him getting cut either.
Yeah, I agree with Clint on that one. Here's my take on Ariane. So much that adds to her story is the fact that she is coming from the perspective of a frustrated female.
Right.
And, that she sees in comparison sort of the strong-headed will of all the Sand Snakes, and that sort of there's a kind of an unspoken dialogue going on there between her role as, I guess, a more prevalent individual within Dornish society versus the freedoms that her cousins get to have. And so much of that is a frustration that here are all the men who are seemingly not doing anything. And she feels like, but if you see there's strong women in this society, maybe should I assume that position of being a strong woman or not? And that to apply that storyline to the son, I think would be taking out something that is a certain aspect that really adds to the Dornish development.
You're right.
Yeah. And I definitely think...
Yeah, that's why I'm hoping that they don't cut her. Like, A, for that part, and B, just because she is actually probably the most important Dornish storyline in, Book 4 and heading into the future, because she's the one who goes to meet young Griff and all that stuff.
I mean, and kind of going off what Reed said, I think one of the big reasons why George R. R. Martin made Arianne the oldest is to kind of make another kind of difference between the Dornish and everyone else, and that the lines of succession and all that. So having the oldest child be male instead of female kind of takes away from that. I mean, they've kind of already done a pretty good job in the show of showing how different Oberyn is versus everyone else in King's Landing.
Yeah.
But it's kind of, I always thought that was kind of cool because you follow all these like heir characters, heirs of large family lines.
Yeah.
And then you get to Arianne, who's actually a female who's an heir, and it kind of makes a different kind of dynamic.
Right. Yeah, I think they've talked about how there's going to be a lot of Dorne.
Yeah.
And that's interesting, and I think it's probably best not to to obsess too much over random casting calls we've seen, because there's obviously a lot more going on, and one thing going off that casting call, I don't know if you guys have any more to talk about Dorne.
My one point about Dorne, this is just a question because I don't know. Filming location, do we know that yet?
I saw Spain.
Yeah, Spain.
Okay, so like the southern Cordoba and everything, that would make sense.
Yeah, sort of like Andalusia.
Yeah,
that makes sense to me too.
Geography of that area is kind of what I imagine Dorne to be like anyways, so at least parts of Dorne.
Yeah. The salt Dornish.
Yeah, I think that'd be pretty awesome. I guess we can come back to it if we have other things, but one thing I wanted to say really quick was in that same casting call they talked about young actresses, so it looks like we'll be getting those sort of flashbacks to Cersei and the like Maggie the witch or whatever.
Maggie's Toad, right? Or Maggie
Frog.
Toad. Isn't it
or maybe
Frog?
It's
yeah, it's Frog or Toad is in there.
I think it's Frog. Yeah. So I think that's gonna be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how they pull that off, because flashbacks haven't really been a thing.
Like, real flashback. I mean, we kind of had a little bit with Bran this past season, but nothing more than a quick flash of like.
There was some Bran stuff in season 3 when he first met Jojen Reed.
Yeah.
It was more dream sequency.
Yeah.
I mean, the first main flashback they could have used in the show, which they didn't, was of course Tower of Joy. And since then, they've kind of just gone on a no flashback mantra.
Right.
Yeah. I think with Tower of Joy, it was like, if you really think about it, it's too obvious with Jon Snow. So they probably wanted to keep that more not make you think about that as much.
That's true. Yeah.
But yeah, I think this will be interesting because even with the Bran flashback, if I remember, they were really just scenes that they'd already done.
Yeah, they weren't new.
Yeah, where this is going to be like, a totally different feel,
I suppose, I don't know how they're going to do it, because if they do a legit, like, Cersei's like, I remember Maggie the Frog, and then it cuts to a flashback, that would just feel weird for Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the other thing I was thinking about is they could open like a scene and have it be a flashback immediately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I don't know if that might be too confusing for some people, being like, wait, who are these small children, and why is she named Cersei?
Right.
And she's a child.
And just from a production aspect, if they do weird things like, put a different filter on the shot, like
Oh God.
how they're going to portray this flashback is
Maybe
going to be
maybe we
interesting.
can have a little fading in and out with a little swirly. Woo!
Yeah.
With that sound. It has to have that sound of it.
No, this
Or
is
just
what happens. Cersei is holding a goblet, like she does, like the badass she is, drinking goblets, and she's going to be sitting there swilling the wine, and she's going to look down in the goblet, and as the wine starts to spin around, it's going to be like in Harry Potter when she goes into a memory. What was that thing called? In Dumbledore's...
The pensive.
The pensive, yeah. That's what's going to happen. That's how they'll do it.
What if they do like a mind cloud with like little dots going out? She's like sleeping or something. Yeah. Yeah. Who knows? That's gonna be interesting to see how that turns out. Because I mean, I don't even really remember how they are in the books.
It's just like the flashback kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's just people telling stories, I think. So it's like the Maggie the Frog. Don't quote me on this because I don't quite remember, but I think it's Cersei telling the story to Taina Merryweather, or is that it? Merryweather?
That's right. Yeah.
Merryweather. Yeah. So I think
yeah.
she's telling the story, and that's kind of a flashback.
See, and I don't
it's
know why
people
you
filling up the stories.
I don't know why you would break from the storytelling formula because it's worked so well in
Yeah.
the show. It's not like they said, let's have a flashback of Orson smashing beetles.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
Storytelling
they've
is so powerful.
So
yeah, and it's something they've
really
done so often. That one character just kind of going off on a story of the past. But I don't know. This is gonna be interesting, and it could be nonsense because that was all speculation, and I think they were just asking for like young kids. So who knows?
They did have in that one leaked casting call casting for Maggie the Frog. So I mean, they could have her. They could have like her as being an old person, and have Cersei see her, and then that's what triggers the story.
Yeah, I think probably like we said earlier, probably like the best way to do it would to like start a scene from that perspective, or like start an episode from that perspective, even.
Right.
So, just so you kind of get out of the way, and then you don't have to like jump back and forth,
Yeah. So other casting stuff. I know we already kind of finished with the Martells, but they already said that they're gonna have the three Sand Snakes for sure. Like Nymeria, Obara, and Tyene. And I was kind of not really surprised, but I'd seen some theories before that they were actually gonna condense Tyene and Nymeria into one character, since they're both kind of
that makes sense.
Similar in that they're like, I guess, more stealthy, while Obara is in your face, gonna kill you, kind of like Oberyn was. But
the only thing I saw was I was watching one episode, in season 4 the other day, and I think it was like Cersei asked Oberyn how many like bastards he has or daughters, and he's like, I have 8.
I didn't realize you were a poet.
Not a very good one.
For your paramour.
For one of my daughters.
You have several, don't you?
8.
8? 8 daughters.
The 5th is difficult. I named her after my sister, Elia.
So if they like condense it too much and don't address where those others are, I don't know if that's like a...
Well, they kind of don't do that in the book. They're just kind of like, the others are a little too young. So all they gotta really do...
Maybe Maggie the Frog is actually one of his daughters.
Oh, yeah.
She's magic. She looks old.
Yeah. Another casting thing I've seen that got me pretty excited was the apparent return of Tom Walisha.
Walisha, yeah,
I don't know exactly who played Jaqen Hagar.
Waslachia.
Right.
I'm pretty sure.
Are we going is Old Town business?
Yeah, but it's weird because
I don't know if he's gonna be if they're gonna put him in the house, you know, when Arya goes to Bravos.
Oh, yeah.
So it's an interesting sort of thing because, you know, arguably this will be the season where Sam and Gilly leave if they do that storyline. I mean, they have to get Sam to Old Town because it seems important. But so I don't know if yeah. I mean, I don't know if he'll be in Old Town or if they're gonna put him. They're gonna like replace the old man and have like Jaqen be there.
Yeah, and the weird thing is, I mean, I guess it's pretty easily changed for the books, or in the show. But in the books, I mean, he changes his face, and I would think he doesn't go back to that face. So obviously, if they're casting this Tom Wishlashka, they're gonna have Jaqen have his face like when he was dealing with Arya.
Yeah, his like recognizable face.
I was thinking if they did recast Jaqen, they'd have whatever actor they had playing him at the very end of season 2 when he transformed.
Yeah.
And have him play Jaqen the whole time. That'd be kind of weird. Talk about losing people, it's like a recast, but a recast in terms of the story.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see though, because we obviously don't know to what extent. I wouldn't be surprised if they go back to old Jaqen if they do the Old Town. I think, like, to me, it makes sense. Whatever they do with Jaqen, it makes sense to go back to his most recognizable face.
Yeah, so, like I said, I've seen them pretty easily fixing that. Just having that be like, oh, that's his real face, and he'll put on different faces.
Yeah.
Depending on his mission. But
speaking about Jaqen, I read an interesting thing, I saw a video discussing the Jaqen Sirio theory.
Yeah.
And it actually was adamantly against it, and it made a lot of sense.
No, really?
Yeah, because there's all sorts of things that, you know, had Sirio, you know, been faced in that battle with Meryn Trant and the other folks, why would they have just captured him? And if they did just capture him, why would he then change his face? That's a very hard thing to do under the watch of a knight's of a King's Guard business. There's just too many loopholes for that to be true.
Yeah, that's true.
Because, I mean, unless he fled immediately and quickly changed his face, but then there's just if he really is a great assassin and a person who can escape on a whim, why would he get caught in the first place? If he did manage to escape, you know, there's all these questions. Why would they catch just some random guy? So, as awesome as that theory is, it's a really fun one. I just don't see much fruition to it.
I never really put too much stock in any of the Syria theories. Like, I'm kind of more on the side of he probably actually died.
Yeah, it's like
as much as you don't want him to.
And it's like that's fitting to Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
it's like people die. Yeah. People get in shitty situations and die. So yeah, I mean, it's hard to say, and it almost feels like now it feels like something like a Benjen Stark kind of thing where you're just not gonna know the answer. Yeah. And I think George R. R. Martin is happy with you not knowing.
It's because, like he says, how life isn't fair, and the novels reflect that. You don't know what happens to everyone.
Yeah. I mean,
you know, it's too fake.
Right.
For everything to come wrap up in the end. I mean, people like to imagine that at the very end of the series, Benjen Stark and Syrio and everyone else who we seemingly lose in, Gendry maybe, will all come
they all
together.
Save the day.
They all save the day, riding dragons or something like that.
They're all with the Khalasar that Daenerys runs into. Yeah, I mean, it's bullshit when you expect that kind of thing. You know?
They're all members of the Golden Company.
Yeah.
Yes. So they all come over and retake Westeros by storm. But
So yeah, I think I'd actually be more surprised if we find an answer to like Benjen Stark and Syrio than if we do, you know.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem fitting to the world that he's made because it's supposed to be like a punishing, like just sad, shitty world.
Yeah. So kind of fits, but anyway. So what are some other stories? I guess we can dabble into Dany's stuff.
Yeah. One thing I saw really quick was was from the producers, and they were talking about how we're gonna find, because you know how Varys sort of disappears off the map for a long while,
like in the books. Yeah.
And it sounds like in the show, because they were asked like, what can we expect in season 5, and the first thing they said was Dorne, and then the second thing they said was, we're gonna find out what Varys' next move is, and so part of this is like kind of, you know, I think we might have talked about this before, if Varys is gonna travel with Tyrion across like the Narrow Sea, and like how intricate into that storyline will he be? You know, some people are wondering if he'll replace Illyrio, which I mean maybe, and then others are wondering, you know, if he'll go all the way with him or if he'll stop and go back. You know, so I think it'll be interesting to see where they go with Varys.
I could totally see them doing, like, completely replacing him with Illyrio and doing the stop, like, where he goes with them up until the point where they meet young Griff and all that, and then Varys goes head back to King's Landing.
Right. I mean, they could rewrite this whole Tyrion adventure because they didn't introduce Penny in like any fashion. You know?
And I really hope they don't introduce her in any fashion.
We talked about this, though. Remember when they didn't bring her up in the episode she should have? We talked about this on the show, about how, you know, even though it would be weird to bring her up, she definitely plays an important role in, you know, character development in the book. So I think like there's a void that has to be filled there.
Yeah, see, I don't know if they will, though. It's one of those things where it seems like it fits for the book, but it might not fit for the show.
Yeah, I mean, it also kind of depends on what they're doing with Tyrion, because we kind of discussed, I think, last week. Book Tyrion ends Book 3 like extraordinarily dark, and all throughout Book 5, you know, he's kind of very pessimistic and dark.
And it's like, as important as it is for Book Tyrion, I don't know exactly where they're taking show Tyrion.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
it's
weird. It is weird.
Penny as a foil, like, where Book Tyrion is really dark and brooding and, like, you know, kind of angry about everything. Penny's kind of upbeat, even though she's pretty much lost everything. Well, not everything. She still has her dog and pigs, but
that's
like,
fair.
And she's still always upbeat, so it's kind of like an opposite. But now that they have Tyrion not as dark, at least in my opinion, then maybe they don't need Penny. So
I think like Penny does bring out things in Tyrion that, you know, we wouldn't see otherwise, and she like makes him think about different things, which I don't know exactly how that's going to work for the show character. And it would be things that are cool to see in the show, but I don't know exactly. And also, like, you know, going back a while, and this is also moving pretty far ahead in the Tyrion's story, when he gets, you know, thrown into the Second Sons, and then in the show they made Dario the head of the Second Sons, and when he's not, he's out of the Stormcrows in the books, and so it's like, because Tyrion has to join the Second Sons for various sort of, you know, reasons, like him being the second son, and just sort of like fluffy literary things like that. Like it feels right, him joining, and then I wonder if they're gonna have like a Tyrion Dario meetup in the show,
right?
Because I think like the fact that he joined or he's in the Second Sons is really important.
Yeah. Plus, it kind of gets him out of his rut. In my opinion, after he gets captured by what's his face, Jorah Mormont, and kind of the whole being enslaved part and meeting Penny, like, I wasn't a fan of that. And then finally at the very end he joins the Second Sons, and it's kind of like, okay, this is kind of cool.
It's like Book 5 was so much setup, and like in a way Book 4 too, but like everyone's story was tedious until the end.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes the next book exciting and also frustrating, because he won't release the fucking thing. Or he won't finish it, you know. So yeah, I think it's gonna be fun to see how far they get in this season.
That's true. Like, I'm really wondering if they're going to kind of finish up everyone's book 5 stories. I mean, they've already kind of done that for a few people, but book 4 and 5, because I mean, they obviously have like Cersei's Walk of Shame and stuff. Since they cast Septas and all that too. I mean, that finishes her up.
Right. It's like the King's Landing characters I'm not worried about. It's it's people like Sansa and Bran and maybe Jon Snow.
No, I think there's plenty of stuff for the time being up at the Wall.
I think Jon Snow will probably reach his as far as we've gotten with Jon Snow probably by the end of season 5.
Yeah, I'd say so.
But other people like Sansa, obviously we're in territory that arguably we've already ventured into territory that we don't know yet. And Bran, we've just about reached like his last point. I think there's like one more chapter.
Yeah, where Dragons essentially he's just training.
Yeah. So yeah, I think Jon they can probably get away with for one more season, but if that next book's not out by next summer, then they're going to be going into some interesting places.
Well, let's go ahead and just outline the things that we do know will happen, or that we do know there is to work with. So like you said, there's all the King's Landing stuff, which personally I think it's my least favorite thing that's on the horizon. I mean, I'm not saying it's bad or boring, but I think it's the least interesting. That's just me.
I think the best thing is when Jaime actually leaves.
Yeah.
I think that's when those storylines actually get good.
Yeah, it's mostly the Cersei stuff that goes on.
Yeah.
And see what Marjorie rivalry.
Right, and with Cersei they got rid of the Kettle Blacks, which is like where her best part of the books happens. Like when they start like closing in on her and they're like, "Girl, you've been doing some bad stuff," because the Kettle Black is the one who spills the beans. So I'm kind of interested to see how they work all that. Maybe they'll bring Lancel back.
Yeah, that's what I was going to wonder, because I think that the whole religious fervor that goes on, I think that in my opinion, that's my favorite thing that happens.
Yeah. No, it's a really cool part of it.
And if they don't engage it, I think that's really missing out. So obviously, there's the King's Landing one. Anything else to say on that, really?
Yeah, I mean, just with that, the militarized church.
I wonder if I guess I saw one thing quickly with Kevin Lannister. I mean, they've got to kind of reintroduce him. They've never really introduced him in the first place. I mean, he's shown up a few times, but he's never had a proper introduction or anything.
I think they'll bring him back.
They might do that in the beginning.
We'll probably get more Mace Tyrell. I hope we get more Marjorie Tommen interaction.
We've got to get more stuff, because throughout book 4, you really don't know what Marjorie's really doing. I mean, you have all of Cersei's kind of ideas of what she's doing.
See, that's what kind of confused me.
Yeah.
Something that confused me earlier in the show is when, in season 4, when Tommen is inducted or whatever it is, coronated, and
inducted as king,
like indoctrinated by aliens,
inducted into the honor society of King's Landing royalty. But when he gets his coronation, I suppose. And Cersei and Marjorie kind of have a real talk conversation where Cersei's like, "You're gonna have to help him." And I was like, that was sort of an interesting thing, because they're supposed to, or Cersei's not supposed to have any sort of faith in Marjorie, So I wonder how they're going to work with those things going forward. I mean, I trust them to do it, but I wonder how it's going to be.
I like Natalie Dormer's Marjorie, so I'm just kind of excited to see what more they have in store for that.
Yeah, definitely. They should get her with her clothes off more often. I'm just saying it's a missed opportunity.
Did you ever see the Tudors?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's had her fair share of TV.
Oh, the Tudors.
TV nudity, I think, for a lifetime via that.
She's worked the TV corner. But no. I mean, obviously, for the sake of not being, accused of defending the male patriarchy, I think she's definitely an interesting enough character without nudity. But yeah, I think that's gonna be an interesting thing. I hope there's more Loras, and I hope they actually put him in the Kingsguard.
They've got to, right? I mean, I feel like...
Well, they're going to, because since Tywin is now dead,
they've got to get out of
marriage
marriage.
probably won't go through.
Yeah. And I expected them to tie up that storyline already, but I guess now it's the perfect thing where Cersei's like, oh, boo-hoo, my dad's dead. All right, at least now I can say, oh, well, you're going to be in the Kingsguard, so I don't have to marry him.
Because, the Tyrells are too weak to really push that.
Yeah. It's going to be Cersei.
Mace getting all huffed puff and trying to go up against Cersei on that one.
No, you're right. Cersei's going to do it. And I think Mace would be on board with it because it was obviously a Lannister power play to get them married.
Right.
More than a Tyrell power play.
He's already got a daughter that is married to the king. I mean,
right. Because Tywin did that like specifically to, quote, secure the Reach. So so I don't. Maybe Mace would be more. Mace Windu would be more. God, why isn't Samuel L. Jackson in this show? But yeah, I think he would be more amenable.
Maybe he'll play Jalabhar Zoe.
But also, he would be losing his son, because they don't have other.
And he's in the show he's the heir because there's no brother. So. Yeah. So. That would probably be really bad for him. Although I could see Mace Tyrell. He's not really all that smart, so maybe he's like, oh yes, it's a great honor, and then he accepts it, and then he'll be like, well, shit.
In the books, like the farthest point in the books we're at, is Mace Tyrell Hand of the King now?
Yes, at the very end. I just finished book 5. So, and Kevin Lannister's
Lord Protector.
Chapter.
Okay.
Yeah, he's
Cromwell.
Yeah, he's talking to like his small council. He's like Mace, who was just appointed Hand of the King.
But yeah, I think that'll be interesting. I hope there's more. I want to see more Tyrell. I thought there wasn't enough Marjorie in this season. Even
though there's like infinitely more than in the books.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, the Tyrells are more interesting in the show.
Yeah.
So.
And I think we sort of talked a little about this on our like broadcast episode, but sort of the advancement of the Robert Strong storyline.
Yeah.
I wonder how that's going to go. Because
I don't know.
It seems weird. It seems weird to not, I don't know, it feels rushed if they do Cersei's her like walk of shame by the end of the season. Maybe they will. I don't know. But having Robert Strong, I think having him show up in any other way apart from episode 10 of season 5 would be too early,
They could totally push it off. Like, they've already done that. Things like, we haven't seen the Brotherhood without banners in forever and a day. And, like, the thing with Gendry with people making jokes, like, he's still out there rowing. Like, it's just kind of like storylines that never really... that kind of ended, but didn't really end. That they just haven't returned to.
One thing I hope they do.
Blackfish and Edmure, like everyone's like, so what happened to them?
That's
they
right.
They were at the wedding, but.
And I was reading some account from some person who I think obviously hasn't read the books, and she's like, "Where's Rickon?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Girl, man, you have no idea."
Like, I was expecting that they were going to put Rickon and Osha in this season, at least a scene or something.
But I mean, like, what are they going to do? Because the whole point is...
I have no idea what they were going to do, but I expected them to do something. But
yeah, like one thing, continuing on that sort of that line of thought now is, I hope they really don't cut the Wyman Manderley Davos Seaworth meetup.
Oh, it's so cool.
Yeah, that's one of the better.
And I really want to see how that set turns out, because that's one of my favorite main halls.
Yeah, the way it's described in the book sounds really awesome.
Where do you think they would film that? Because I'm picturing sort of, it's got to be really a dismal looking place, but at the same time...
They're already in Northern Ireland.
Maybe they could film it at Dungannon. Oh, ho, ho, ho.
Hey, that'd be cool though.
Actually, no. I would want residuals.
But I bet they could find some coast on the Northern Ireland that would work fine, or like Scotland or something, somewhere sort of dark and like excluded from the world. But I think like just because Davos is at the Wall now, and I don't remember him ever being there in the books.
Yeah, well, I think he was, but he just wasn't talked because he was with Stannis when they fought at the wall, and then almost immediately he's like, "You need to go to White Harbor and get their support."
Oh, okay.
So we left so I don't think, I think by the time it mentions Davos again after the battle, he's already left. But so I don't know. They could still do that. Kind of tying into the whole North thing now in the wall with Stannis. I think the cool thing about that storyline in Book 5, the whole thing, is it's almost a Game of Thrones 2.0. Because up until now, pretty much the whole central, kind of political scene has been King's Landing, right? And then it kind of changes with Stannis, trying to gain the support of all the lords, and then the whole Wyman Manderley thing, and the Boltons at Winterfell with all of their supposed loyal bannermen and stuff, kind of brings on a whole new political factor that's been kind of absent out of anywhere but King's Landing. So in Westeros, I'd say not. There's a little bit of political stuff going on in Essos already, but
you know what I hope they do? I hope they, in a way, in the same vein of thought of the way they did Arya and Tywin, I hope they do that with Jon and Melisandre and just really kick ass at their interactions. And the way they sort of tease that as his last shot of, maybe it's not his last shot, maybe Ygritte burning is his last shot, but the way they sort of tease that scene of seeing her through the fire, and you can tell when she's picked someone out, the way she picked out Gendry, and the way she picked out Arya. She had that same look with Jon. And really jumping back to Arya really quick, the way she said we're gonna meet again, that's kind of an intense revelation.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope they really flesh that stuff out.
Well, we know what color Jon Snow likes his carpet. Oh!
Oh!
Well, we'll see.
I wonder if there's gonna be a scene. I can't do her accent, but I'm gonna just do the Scottish accent I use for every single Game of Thrones character. Jon Snow, where'd you learn how to do that thing with your tongue?
What if he gets her Dutch bagpipe?
No, that's how he lights the Lord of Light's flame.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Somebody makes the flame bigger. She holds up a match, and he just gets down and starts playing the pipes.
Yeah. I just love how she's Dutch, because the Dutch are so down for everything.
And Melisandre's down for everything.
Yep, pretty much.
Her Dutch heritage.
Do you see there's a video of this kid being so happy that she got naked in the show? Yeah. And then they tweeted it at her and she's like, that's weird. His mom has this too. Cause she's so excited for her boobs or whatever. She's man, she is so Dutch and just so okay with everything. I bet Shadow Baby is something she's done in her spare time.
I want to see the Netherlands win the World Cup because I'm curious what her reaction as a Dutch celebrity would be.
Yeah, she'll probably do all sorts of shit. But yeah, I think I hope we have more Melisandre because she's a really good character in the show. What do you guys think about Shireen in the Wall and stuff like that?
I don't know. I mean, they have
because they have that wildling scene in the book where the wildling freaks the fuck out.
Or what's her name? Val is
Val?
Go get that thing away from me. Yeah, I don't know how they're gonna play that one up. I mean, obviously, I was kind of surprised when they cast Shireen in back in season 2, because season 3, because I really didn't think she was that important of a character up until that part where Val is freaking out because she has grayscale. So that kind of told me that maybe she is important later in the books. So we'll see if they kind of speed that along and have whatever they're planning with Shireen have that happen next season. So
yeah. I mean, you never know.
Can we just talk about when Patchface is going to show up?
He's going to come out of the sea and kill someone and then walk back in the sea.
That's another thing. Patchface, to me, is someone who is good for the books, but maybe not good for the show.
Yeah,
No,
pretty
yeah,
much any
he's
fool.
terrible for the show.
Yeah, and like not in the sense of like, not just in the sense of making him look believable, but I think it just sort of gets into a world where, you know, it's hard to really get that through. Cause I remember we talked about this in class. Like, Aaron Greyjoy and Patchface are like both two people who like were about to drown, but like got out of the water and then just start like spewing prophetic shit.
Yeah.
And like, it's weird because it seems like it's something important and creepy, you know, because with like Aaron Greyjoy, they're like, oh, he's like the main priest, we should listen to this dude or whatever. But with Patchface, they're like, he is fucking creepy, stop saying that shit, you know. So
Yeah.
So it's like in the book he seems like he could really mean something, especially with this link of, you know, being drowned and coming back. But in the show, I don't know if it's really vital.
So I kind of, yeah, I doubt we'll ever see Patchface.
Well, him and Cold Hands are having a good time together.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, that's why they're not in the show. They're both at the pub.
Anyway, some other storylines. Like I said, we never really got into Daenerys too much. She's still got a whole lot of political stuff, which they've already kind of started.
Yeah.
I'm going to assume, like, either episode 1 or 2, they're going to start the Sons of the Harpy killing.
I think the whole season, yeah, like you said, I think the whole season is just going to be very difficult for her. You know,
Yeah.
like there's not going to be an easy episode, and they'll probably end with her, you know, leaving on Drogon. I don't see them advancing her story any further. And
past the books.
Yeah, they'll probably really embellish the sort of Harpy situation, and it'll help if they have the Quentin Martell storyline. You know, just maybe they can make more out of that. But
right. And then I wonder what they're going to do with all the Miranese guys with like weird names. I mean, people already have problems, you know, remembering the names of like main characters just because there's so many people, and then you add in these characters with these just weird names.
Yeah. I mean, they already have Hizdar.
They already have Hizdar, so you know he's going to be in there at the very least.
Queen Daenerys, tales of your beauty were not exaggerated.
I thank you.
Mine is one of the oldest and proudest families in Meereen.
Then it is my honor to receive you.
My father, one of Meereen's most respected and beloved citizens, oversaw the restoration and maintenance of its greatest landmarks, this pyramid included.
For that, he has my gratitude. I should be honored to meet him.
You have, your grace. You crucified him.
I just hope they don't put a Where Are My Dragons episode, a.k.a. just pointless filler.
Yeah.
I didn't mind that, because her cart storyline was so boring anyways.
That is true,
Like,
I guess. And they needed to put...
like,
I mean, I would have just rather not had her for an episode.
Yeah, I feel like they somehow had to increase her stakes to going to the House of the Undying, and sort of just make her car storyline interesting, because like seriously, she doesn't do anything.
She really doesn't
until she goes there. So I didn't mind it too much. I thought it was a decent rewrite. I kind of want to see the repercussions of it because you know, in book 5, Jawan Daxos like comes to visit her, and it's like, yo, you're fucked. You know that, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
He could still do it though.
I mean, can he? I don't know if he was like locked in there forever or not.
They implied that he died.
It's the unbreakable door, but I mean that wouldn't be. I mean that's hardly jumping the shark, getting him out of that thing.
Yeah, maybe then. But obviously, I think they don't need him to do that. I'm sure they can have other characters telling her she's fucked, but
yeah,
but
she has plenty of them telling her she's fucked.
Yeah, but also just like destroying, like they essentially destroyed the political hierarchy of Karth, you know, killing the 13.
Right.
So there's all sorts of weird things with that rewrite that may have, I guess, results, but may not. Like, I'm kind of okay with them not touching on that ever again. But yeah, I mean, that's going to be interesting.
Either way, yeah. It should be kind of interesting to see what they do with Dany.
And also, I hope we have a lot of great Jorah Tyrion scenes.
Yeah.
I think that, like, to me, that was the
characters.
Yeah.
So.
Like, to me, that was the first scene in the books that was really like, whoa, this is the weirdest pairing in the world.
Yeah. Like, it's something you would have never thought.
Yeah.
Like,
It's Jar Jar Binks Mace Windu quality.
Yeah, it really is. Like it almost like they pulled two names out of two separate hats and we're like, okay, let's do this. But yeah, I think it's a fun rewrite because obviously, or not a rewrite, it's a fun sort of happening because both are trying to get to Daenerys, you know.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of really great potential because obviously, like, to me, like, Jorah's in my, like, top 5 favorite characters, and I think obviously the Jorah actor is really cool, and obviously Peter Dinklage is really cool. So finally seeing those two kind of play off each other will be kind of fun.
So we'll see. Maybe they'll pull a kind of Arya Hound thing and extend their time together just so you can have more scenes.
Yeah, I mean, you can do a lot.
I mean, if they want to get to the end of Tyrion's story, you still got to go a pretty
yeah.
way.
We kind of only talked about this for like a second because it was right at the end of our last show. But do you guys think they'll do the Greyjoy King's moot?
Oh, definitely. I mean, the Greyjoy
as involved as it was.
I think possibly even more so and with a different intricacy because they need to fill stuff up. I mean, I think we're going to get some interesting things out of there. Some interesting new characters who aren't in the books that are pulled out to add a new dynamic. Like I said, that's what I'm most looking forward to because I think that it's just a big old slab of raw meat and how they cook it and prepare it and present it on the plate will really, I think, make for an interesting story.
Yeah.
Plus, I mean, like Euron's introduction in the King's Moot was like one of the better scenes, I think, in book 4. Mm-hmm. And changing that, I think, might take away. They already have a good introduction to go with, so why not follow it? Kind of thing.
That makes sense. The biggest thing for me is I can't wait to see who they cast for them. You know, there's been all sorts of like weird theories about who to get, but I feel like for me, I mean, yeah, I know Clint has. Have you seen Rome Reed? You have, right?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, so probably the best ones were Ray Stevenson, who plays Titus Pillow, being the Tyrion, and then I forgot his name.
Kevin Kidd?
The guy who plays Mark Anthony being Euron.
Oh,
Euron, not Euron.
James Trefoil.
There we go. Yeah, and I think I like those two choices. I'd like to see. I don't know how it would work out though.
I've seen some interesting ones myself. Did you ever see? Oh yeah, this guy was in Inglourious Bastards. The one who played the French guy at the very beginning, the French milk farmer.
Yes, I remember.
He also had a role in Robin Hood as Adhemar. Not a huge character, but he's an interesting cat. He got just in terms. I think he has an interesting look. It's Dennis Menashe. If you just want to, he's got an interesting. I've seen his name pop up a few times. He's normally rocks a beard. I could see him having the Victorian look.
What about Samuel L. Jackson for Victorian?
No, just as Nick Fury shows up.
Oh, he could be Crow's-Eye.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's so many like interesting choices. I'm sure, like if we just sat through and looked at different actors, we could find some pretty cool things. Those are two characters that I think they really need to nail well, and like the show's done a pretty good job at characterizing people. So I'm excited for what they come up with, and I'm also excited for who they cast for like Doran Martell, and you know Trystane will probably be some young dude that we never heard of, but I have a feeling Doran might be a
more famous person.
Yeah, like a decently famous dude.
Jason Isaac's name was kind of come up for Euron Greyjoy too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
that'd be a solid choice as well.
Like Viggo Mortensen
that sort of
considered.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, well,
yeah, I think you definitely need that sort of like calm, calculated kind of bad guy. You know.
Yeah.
Not someone who looks scary, but someone who can be scary. I think Jason Isaacs is really good at that.
Ooh, Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh yeah.
I'm just looking at a list of suggestions or things that people have rumored in the past.
Mel Gibson. Wait, okay, let's have fun with this. Who would Mel Gibson play in Game of Thrones?
Oh, John Connington.
Okay. Sort of shunned from society and
yeah, exactly, for saying the wrong thing, but still everyone likes him for some reason or another, or they like his old stuff.
It's because Die Hard is a great movie. Or not Die Hard.
Yeah, that's Bruce Willis.
What are his with Danny Glover? Lethal Weapon.
Anyways, yeah. Are there any other character storylines we need to do? We are getting upon an hour, so I don't know how much longer we want to do this for.
So we talked about Dorne. We talked about King's Landing. Talked a little bit about Brienne and sort of her role with Lady Stoneheart, I guess. Do you guys one thing I was thinking about, like how they're gonna do Jaime and stuff. Like we sort of talked about Robert Strong and how that can be put off, because I think the way Jaime and Cersei's storylines end in book 4 are really good season enders.
Right.
So yeah, I'd be pretty pleased if they just sort of end on those notes, and I hope if they need time that they'll make sort of Jaime's through the various Riverlands and stuff more interesting.
Yeah, they could extend
Not that they weren't
if they wanted.
But make them.
They were kind of short. I mean, you kind of you would see him when he got to a castle. Like, you didn't see anything in between there. So
yeah,
they could add a few scenes in between. But see, I don't know because he's with Ilan Payne, which he probably won't be with Ilan Payne.
Why did they send Bronn with him?
Yeah, like that's what I was thinking. Like, since they kind of replaced him as his fighting partner, anyways.
Right.
Yeah, who knows if
you know what?
They're gonna have Bronn be his traveling companion too.
I have to head out actually pretty soon, so I'm gonna give this one passing thought of what I think would be a good scene that doesn't exist in the books, but I think would make for good television. Put a scene with Jaime and the Blackfish.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty cool interaction in the books, anyways. So
and really sort of really lengthen it out.
Yeah,
you have an instance one is captured by the other at some reason or another, and you sort of have a really interesting dialogue.
Yeah, because I mean in the books they like meet on the drawbridge or something, right?
Yeah, that amounts for something. But I think when he's doing that bit on the run, at some point, I don't know. Who knows? But just because I really like the Tullys and I would like to see more of it, and obviously the Jaime storyline would be the best way to expand it.
I think we'll definitely have that. We'll definitely have that Edmure scene with the bath and the Rains of Castamere and all that.
Yeah,
I feel like that's a really important scene to have. But it'll be interesting to see how much they put Blackfish in.
Yeah. Anyway, with that, I need to head out, so you guys can of course keep talking about all the stuff we haven't. Been a lot of fun.
Probably start tying this up, anyways. Like I said, we're going
I think
on a little over
hit a
now.
lot of things.
Okay. Well, later, guys.
Bye-bye.